Well, earlier we heard from director Oliver Stone about how the Obama administration tried to capture, seemingly by any means necessary, Edward Snowden. But when it comes to British whistleblowers, things are more complicated, not least because of people like our next guest, Janis Sharp, who successfully campaigned for Home Secretary, now UK Prime Minister Theresa May, to rescind an extradition request for her son, Gary McKinnon, to the USA. McKinnon, who exposed security flaws in US government computer systems, was accused of perpetrating the biggest military computer hack of all time and won support all around the world. Janis is now campaigning for Donald Trump to rescind extradition of another UK subject, Laurie Love. Janis, thanks so much for coming on the show once more. Your son exposed how dangerous for the world, how weak US intelligence security could be a threat to us all. Just remind us of how you and Theresa May saved Gary McKinnon.
Well, from my part, basically, I thought I have to get as many people on board as possible. And I've got in touch with musicians. Sting and Trudy Styler came on board of their own accord. And then we got David Gilmour, we got Chrissy Hine, we got so many people. We also ended up getting incredible politicians, because politicians are quite often given a bad name. We had people who worked really hard for Gary.
Secretary Boris Johnson.
Absolutely. I mean, and his was very humorous. And I think humour is often important to get serious points across. And Theresa May basically made one of the most compassionate sort of political decisions ever made, because it takes a lot of guts to actually say no to America. And there was 5 Home Secretaries previously, and all of them said Gary had to go.
So the Labour ones, mainly.
It was quite a strong thing. Well, yeah, there was some Labour helped, some of the very left Labour helped. But at the time, Tony Blair's Labour wasn't really indicative of Labour, was it? It was, it wasn't, wasn't really socialist, was it?
Being poodles of Washington. You're now campaigning and battling with the US government to help stop the extradition of Laurie Love. Tell us about Laurie's case.
Well, basically, when Theresa May made the decision on Gary, she brought in a thing called forum, which meant if someone was physically in this country when they committed the crime, they could be tried here. And it was meant for people who were vulnerable, like Gary. Now, if it doesn't apply to Laurie Love, who does it apply to? He's got Asperger's, he's got mental health issues, he's got eczema, he's suicidal. If it doesn't apply to him, who can it apply to? And I know she meant very well, Theresa May meant very well by doing this, but unfortunately our judges still won't say no to the US. But we were told this treaty was for terrorists, but it seems to be so many people with Asperger's who are actually being threatened with extradition or extradited, as the young trader was recently from Hounslow. He was extradited. He also has Asperger's. So you think, why on earth would they be doing this?
So there's a waning of American power in these cases when it comes to British subjects that are ill, as you say. What about Donald Trump? Because he certainly extolled the virtues of WikiLeaks in his campaign. We haven't heard anything yet about Julian Assange or Chelsea Manning, an American subject, obviously, slightly different cases. What about Laurie being freed from this threat of extradition by Donald Trump, who I understand could be your cousin?
Well, I think he probably is a second or third cousin, because my dad came from Thornaway in the Highlands, and there was a population of 120, all MacLeods. My dad was Donald MacLeod. Trump's mother was actually Mary MacLeod. They were all very closely related and actually had to leave. They all spoke Gaelic and actually had to leave the village to find partners to stop inbreeding. And I think Donald Trump just might, because not only is he proud of his Highland heritage, Laurie's father's also Scottish, but I watched an interview with Donald Trump where he talks about Asperger's, he talks about autism. His son, it seems, has Asperger's and is very good with computers. Now, he has to understand and have compassion if his own son does indeed have this. And when I saw him talk about that, I thought, no, there's real hope here. So I basically have to write the best letter I've written to appeal to him and hopefully get the right person to get it in his hands, because I'm sure that he will have the understanding because of his own son.
Away from all your successes, of course, we have to remind our audience that the threat of real harm, we're coming up to the 3-year anniversary in January of the suicide of Aaron Swartz, who campaigned for freedom,
Absolutely.
academic freedom. What is the threat of self-harm in these sorts of cases?
No, it really is. I mean, Aaron was a prime example of that. And the fact is they've threatened him with 35 years. He was very gentle. He may also have Asperger's. I mean, who knows? But he seems to have that kind of mentality. He basically downloaded information for people, which the professors didn't mind afterwards. They released it themselves. But the fear of 35 years in a violent prison for someone non-violent is so terrifying. And why? Why do it? And Laurie definitely is suicidal. He would not survive in a prison like that. But the point is, why not try him here? No one's saying he shouldn't serve any sentence, but it could be in his own country where his family are around him. And in the US, if an American citizen is physically in the country when they commit the crime, they're automatically tried in the US. So equality? Surely.
And just briefly, Edward Snowden hasn't appeared on this show, even though countless whistleblowers have. What about the sort of Obama-type wing of American politics, believing actually, maybe even your son, they're all part of this big Russian conspiracy? It seems to be part of the angle on extradition. Are you not frightened of being on this show?
No. No, it's paranoid and silly. I see it as childish, and it's done to just sort of pull the wool over people's eyes, basically, and it's all entirely different. Snowden is another. He's an idealist, and he basically wanted people to know. And for whistleblowers, we generally, Obama said that it was going to be much more lenient on whistleblowers. That didn't happen. So why? You know, whistleblowers, I mean, it's the same with Chelsea Manning, who is actually imprisoned. She blew the whistle on a war crime where children were killed. It shouldn't be Chelsea Manning in prison. It should be the people who committed the war crime. Everything's all upside down. But the world's changing. People are standing up. People are coming out. And there really is big changes going on, hopefully for the better, you know, because we need it.
Janis Sharp, thank you. And that's it for today. We're back on Saturday on International Human Rights Day when we speak to multi-Emmy award-winning filmmaker Michael Kirk about From CIA Torture to Wall Street, how to make documentaries that question power. In the meantime, get in touch via social media. We'll see you on Saturday, 148 years to the day that the world's first traffic lights were installed just a stone's throw away from this studio outside the Houses of Parliament in London.